Okay, so good morning, everyone, and it's good to have you here. I'm happy to be here today as well. I'm sure everyone is happy to be here as well today as well. Oh, sorry. Okay, all right. So today we'll be speaking about. My name is Hamid. I'm a lead for Dynamic 5 user group, and then today is first day of the technical journey to Dynamics 365 series, and previously the first day we talk about the certifications and the learning parts of Dynamics 365, both in CRM and then and ERP. So today is a rejoining where we're going to start with technical aspects of the Dynamics 365. We're starting with the ERP today, and just to let you know that these sections is being recorded and it will be available for those who want to continue to learn from, to watch the video and to learn from it continuously. And also, if you have a question, you can put on your question in the chat. And also, if you can, for us to have one house, I would like you to mute all your mic, and if you have any question, you can drop it, or you can ask the question after the section is going to, after the section, the trainer is maybe asking when people are going to have the question or drop your question as well. So today we have our a very trainer, a very good trainer who has a years experience in the Dynamics finance, and then he's going to take us through what you need to know. They walk through Microsoft Dynamics 365 finance modules, and also is going to talk about how we can implement Dynamics 365 finance modules, and a couple of things you're going to learn today. For those of us, I know we've been waiting for this for quite a long time, and then that is why I'm happy to have him here today. And he's a professional in this field, and as we have several years of experiences and skills and resourceful in terms of Dynamics 365 finance. He's Tunde Ogunlesi, is a Dynamics 365 finance hybrid consultant, and he has been having a constant conversation with him regarding this, and I'm happy to have him here today. So thank you very much today for coming up for today's section.
Yeah, thanks, Ahmed. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
All right, so you have the floor now.
Okay, would I be able to share my screen?
Yes, that's good. That's great.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. As Hamid said, my name is Tunde Ogunlesi. I'm a Nigerian, as you can tell from my name. I've been working with Dynamics now for about 5 years. 5 years, and I'm quite enjoying it. I started off as a test engineer, and from there, I sort of started to work my way up. Some of you have mentioned, lack of training. There is training here in the UK, but it's very expensive. So I had to go to India to learn Dynamics. So I can understand where you're coming from. So I've worked on quite a few projects. Hamid's calling me a trainer, but I actually do implementations. And I also do some training around UAT, and also trying to bring business users and key users up to speed with the system. So when you're looking at an implementation, you're looking at end-to-end implementation. You're looking at start to finish, okay? From the time you go on site, from the time you gather your requirements and speak to your clients, all the way down to the time you sort of start your implementation. You're going to LCS, you register your users, you configure your system. You first of all need to, approve all your requirements from your clients, and from there, that's when the work starts. But let's go into Dynamics. But what I'd like to do this morning is there are some quite critical business processes within Dynamics, which I think are quite powerful and which I think you can learn from today. I don't know what your knowledge base is in terms of Dynamics, but I think it's mixed. I think it's mixed. There's some guys who know it quite well. There's some guys who are new, and there's some guys who are sort of trying to get into it. So what I've done, I've sort of registered a trial version just to try and see what problems you guys go through when you try to use this trial demo environment. So I've used it before. When I used it last year, I didn't really find it helpful. But since Nancy's chat, I've gone into it and I've used it, and I think it's quite helpful. It could get you through some tasks that it can get you through some tasks. It can also sort of get you through the exam, because with the exam, you're probably going to need to have access to a demo site, because in the exam, they'll show you screenshots of some of these some of these forms. And without knowledge of those forms, you might not be able to answer those questions. So what I want to do is I've set up an agenda. Can you see my screen?
No, we can't see your screen. We can't see your screen.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Not yet.
Right, let's see what's going on here. Right, okay. Just bear with me a sec. Coming up now. You should be able to see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
Right, okay, good. Now, this was the agenda I've set for today. I was going to go through some of the modules, Dynamics 365, finance modules. And I was also going to look at a procure-to-pay process within the AP.
We didn't see your slide, but we can see your browser, like we have the...
Can you see a PowerPoint? Can you see a PowerPoint?
No, not yet. But we can see a screen, but not PowerPoint.
Oh, okay. Just bear with me. What about now? Can you see anything?
Can anyone see the PowerPoint? Because I'm just seeing.
No. All I can see is Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
Oh. Okay. Have you made me
What you can do is to stop sharing. Stop sharing and reshare. And when you are sharing, you can just share a particular monitor, and that will give you the opportunity to track.
That.
Stop sharing and reshare, so that we'll be able to see that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've done. I've done that twice.
Are you sharing a particular application, or you are sharing your monitor? Depends on what you are sharing.
Yeah, I'm sharing. I'm going to share my monitor so that you can see what's on it. It gives you a choice.
You have two monitors or one?
I have one.
Okay, so share your monitor, then you should be able to project it this slide.
Okay, so Let's try this again. Okay. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Go on.
You can see it now?
Yeah, we can see the slide now, the PowerPoint.
Oh, good. Right. Okay. So this was the agenda that I've set for today. A quick walkthrough, looking at the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance modules. The Procure-to-Pay process within the AP module. Within the AP module, the AP module is huge. AP module is Accounts Payable. There's quite a lot to cover. So I've sort of looked at a critical path, a critical business process that we can look at for this morning. And then we can sort of look at that in terms of a case study and how you could actually implement this going forward and going live with it. So let me go into Dynamics 365 now, and we can sort of take a look. Just let me know when you can see the Dynamics screen.
Yes, we can see.
Right, good. Okay, so now as you can see from that URL, this is a trial sandbox that I've sort of been looking at about the past couple of days. And I find it quite helpful, even though I have another system somewhere, I have another environment somewhere, which I'll be sharing with you. I was able to do some tasks on this on the trial version, but in some other areas, I just couldn't do anything. So I had to keep switching between the trial and the environment that I use. So firstly, you can see all these workspaces on my screen. Okay, you can see that there are lots of them, mainly finance. And what these are just a bunch of links that you can create by yourself. Okay, bunch of links, KPIs, and you can just create it as per when you like. Yeah, so it's totally configurable by yourself. So if I go into this hamburger here, it gives me a list of all the modules. There are quite a few here, but what we want to look at is really, we're more concerned about the finance ones. Yeah, there are quite a few finance ones here. So you're looking at your accounts payable, accounts receivable, asset management, budgeting, cash and bank, consolidation, cost accounting, cost management. So the list is long, okay? But we have to take them one at a time, yeah? So what I'd like to do first is I'd like to sort of show you what a legal entity looks like. So in Dynamics 365, you have legal entities. From this drop down here, okay, lists all the legal entities within the system. And there are quite a few. From the demo Contoso environment, there are quite a few in there. There's Malaysia, there's from every country, most countries in the US, okay? So if you're gonna start your project, one of the first things you're gonna have to do is obviously, once you have your subscription to LCS, you're gonna have to be an administrator to be able to do anything within LCS, okay? Because from LCS, it's where you sort of start looking to run your environment, okay? So before we go into that, let's look at USMF, okay? USMF is a legal entity. And USMF also has what you call a general ledger. Okay, a general ledger is where you do all your posting. Sub-ledgers are posted into here, and from there you can then run a trial balance, and you can do your reconciliation. So, for instance, AP to GL reconciliation could be done. It could be done for any module. Okay, so general ledger is the powerhouse. It houses a lot of things within Dynamics. Okay, and a lot of the configuration within Dynamics is done from here. Okay, so before we go into general ledger, let's have a quick look. Let's have a quick look at legal entities and how they're created. Okay, so if you go into organization administration and you go into legal entities, so this is where you set up your new legal entity. Okay, so your client comes up to you and says, listen, we need to create a new legal entity and we need to have so. This is what you have to do. So you come into here. As you can see from all these legal entities, they've all been set up. And when you set them up, they also have what you call fast tabs, where you need to add all the information about this legal entity. And anything you put into these anything you put into these fast tabs is what you're going to use going forward. Not all of them are important, but there are some very important ones like the address, you know, the country and region, the name, which hierarchy this is going to be in. There are lots and lots of things that you can do. But initially, we would let's look at how this works. Okay, so I create this legal entity. So let's say I create a new legal entity, and I want to call that, I don't know, UK Consulting. Then you have to give it a name. So let's just call it UK01. And then here, you need to enter your region or country. Now, this field is absolutely crucial, okay, because this is what's going to drive things like your currency, whatever you need to do. So if you, in any case, you select, let's select UK, GBR, okay, and then we click OK to that. So that is just the basics, the bare bones. Oh, let's run an exception. Okay, so there must be a UK01 in there already. So I find the system a little bit slow sometimes. So let's just see how this works out. This is very, very slow. I've got to refresh that screen because it was just getting too slow. So let's see what happens there. If it's going to be so slow, we're just going to switch to another environment. It's not a problem. Let's see what's going on. Okay. It looks as if something's gone wrong there. I don't think that was created in a way. So let's not worry about that too much. Let's just look at let's just look at other legal entities. Okay. So what is in a legal entity? So you need the address, surely. You also need contact information for the legal entity. Usually you find most of these blank. Statutory reporting, usually you'll find it's blank, but you have a DUNS number in there. We'll come back to that later. And bank account information, foreign trade, this is if you're doing trade and logistics, number sequence. And that's basically how you would set up a legal. I don't want to go in and try and create another one because I don't know what that's going to lead. I don't want to waste too much time. So, but let's go into the general ledger and see how things work out there. Let's go back into our USMF. So a reliable legal entity to work in. Okay. So we're back in our USMF. Let's go back to our general ledger and let's have a look at some of the critical things that are important when you're setting up a legal entity. So when you're setting up a legal entity, one of the first things you have to do is you need to go in and set up your ledger. Okay. Now, this is like an engine room for everything. Okay. So this is the ledger page. Okay. It gives you a demo. It gives you a description of the name of the legal entity. The chart of accounts, we're going to come to that in a minute. And then also it tells you the physical calendar. Okay. Now below that you have account structure. What account structure does is that it lets you map your main accounts to your financial dimensions. Okay. So what I mean by that is that if you set up a main account and the client comes up to you and says, that main account, I want you to be able to see cost centers and also business units. This is where that is done. Okay. And that is mainly done around the P&L structure. So let's have a look and see what that looks like before we go into chart of accounts. I'm very, very conscious of time here. So I want us to move as soon as possible into other areas. So this is what we have. Okay, so for every main account from 4000 to 99999, business unit can be blank, but you need to have 22 department and cost centers needs to be 007 or 08. Okay, so basically that's how you set up your account structure within Dynamics 365. Yeah, and the same thing goes for all the other ones. So anything within these numbers can have a blank business unit, but department needs to be 022. Cost center needs to be 7 or 8. We're going to have a look and see how that pans out later. But before we do that, let's go back. Let's go back and talk about chart of accounts. Okay. So what is a chart of accounts? A chart of accounts is a sort of combination of all accounts of where transactions are stored. So you create a line, you create a journal within AP, AR, or within any other module. As soon as you post it, it goes into the share of accounts. But you need to nominate which account you want that to go into. And if you go into general ledger, and we go into main accounts, chart of accounts, and we go into chart of accounts. Now with chart of accounts, You can say we have one for Brazil. You can have as many chart of accounts as you like within here. You have the French, you have the India, but what we're concerned about is we want to have a look at the shared chart of accounts. The shared chart of accounts means that all our legal entities are sharing this chart of accounts. They're all using the same one, okay? But what's so good about this also is that you can say, right, I can exempt some of my main accounts from using this from using this shared account, okay? So to do that, if you go into your main accounts, it gives you a list of all your main accounts. This is where you post into. Yeah. So your liquidity account is here. This is all your main accounts where you have your bank account. Okay. Your USMF bank account. This is where you take money from, or this is where you pay your vendors from. Okay. And then you have your petty cash. But you can see as I go through, you can see that it has attributes. Okay. Main account 1110. Okay, the account name, the asset type, the main account type is assets. Okay, the main account category is mainly used for reporting. Yeah, which probably we will look at that. Maybe look at reporting, not today. And it has a long list of things that you can do. You can do anything with these. Yeah, you can say I do not want anyone to post into this, so I can sort of edit this. And I say, I do not want to allow manual entry. So I only want automatic posts into this account. So you can check that there, okay? And you probably find yourself in situations where you'd have to sort of look at foreign currency revaluation. That is mainly used when you're dealing with multi-currencies, okay? So you have a main account. You have legal entities that deal in China, in Nigeria, in the UK, and at some point you want to evaluate your risk against those currencies. So that's when you run what you call a foreign currency revaluation. You can run that against your main account, your liquid accounts. Okay, so you have 1,000 euros in here, and at the end of the month you want to say what your risk situation is. Okay, you want to see how much you're going to lose or how much you're going to gain from trading in foreign currencies. So you mark these accounts as you flag them as yes, please run a foreign currency revaluation against my main accounts so I can know where my losses and my gains are. And those will then be posted into what you call your unrealized gains and unrealized loss accounts. So let's pause there. I'm conscious of time. Okay, so that's only a little bit about the general ledger. I want to go straight into accounts payable and just give you a quick overview of accounts payable. Now, what is accounts payable? Accounts payable is we want to buy stuff from our vendors. Okay, and we have a long list of vendors we buy from. And this is the list on your screen. Okay, so we have Acne, we have Lande, we have Ade Supply. And at some point, we want to order some stuff from them. Say we need some calculators, or we need some highlight pens, or we need some stock. For manufacturer, we need to update our stock. So we can just come in here and say, right, okay, we want to place an order with one of these vendors. And this is where you select the vendor from. Okay. So within Dynamics 365, you have a business process, which is we're going to call three-way matching. So you have three-way matching and you have two-way matching. Now, in dealing with your vendors, okay, because you have a long list of vendors, you can say to your client, you can have X amount of vendors on three-way matching, and you can have X amount of, vendors on two-way matching. Let me explain what two-way matching and three-way matching is. So let's start with three-way matching. You have a new vendor, okay, and you want to purchase from that vendor. And you say, right, okay, this is a new vendor, and I want to implement a three-way matching. Three-way matching means when we place an order, we are going to raise a purchase order. We want to see a product receipt for it, and we also want an invoice, and we want the quantity and the prices to match. Okay, so you raise a new PO. Okay, the PO is 1,000 euros or $1,000. Okay, you create the receipts for it. It's also $1,000, so they match. Okay, and you create the invoice. It's also $1,000. So that way, you are making sure that the price and the quantity are all in line with what you've ordered. Because what could happen sometimes is you place an order for 1,000 batteries, okay, maybe at $10 each. Okay, it comes into your warehouse and it's valued at $12, which means it's gone up by £2. You don't know where that came from. What three-way matching would do would help you find those kind of discrepancies. Okay, so two-way matching is looking at the PO, the purchase order, and just the invoice. Okay, this does not include the product receipt. So what I'd like to do this morning is to look at the Procure-to-Pay. Let's look at how this happens within Dynamics 365. From the time you create your vendor, you create your PO. Okay, when you create that PO, what happens to that PO? Okay, when you receive your goods, you raise a PO, you raise a product receipt. Okay, when you raise a product receipt, you then invoice it. So let's have a look. Let's go through that journey now, and then if we have time, we can come back to looking at the other modules, because there's quite a bit to cover within the other modules. So let's pick best supplies. Okay, so best supplies, we want to order from best supplies. Okay, we want to order some stuff from there. So what do? We need to raise a purchase order. Okay, so let's have a look at what we have. Best supplies has a lot of information on them. So if you scroll down, you can see the address, even though there isn't an address in here. Okay, contact details, and we have everything about the supplier. Okay, we have the credit limit, but we don't have a credit limit for them. As you know, this is just a demo site. And we also have, which is actually very critical, the invoice and delivery. This gives us all the information that we need to know in terms of, what kind of, what delivery type is, the sales tax, the mode of delivery to our warehouses, and payments, how are we going to pay them, what's the terms of payment, the method of payment. So let's sort of create a PO. Okay, let's create a PO from the beginning. So to create a PO, you go into all purchase orders, okay, and you'd see a list of all the POs that are currently in the system, but we're not really too concerned about that. We are more concerned about the one we want to create now. Okay, so when this page comes up, we would create a new PO for Best Way because we want to order from them. Okay, so we go to new. The good thing about this is it's got advanced search. Okay, so if I type in best and I click away from that, it should sort of pull up best supplies. Okay, so it highlights it. Okay, you select it, and what does it do? It puts in all the details: the delivery name, the address, and delivery address. So it puts everything in because all has been pre-configured. Okay, so let's have a look at what's down here. As you can see, automatically it's created a PO number for us. Okay, and in here, okay, it tells you about the purchase types. So here you have purchase order, which is what we're about to create, and returned orders is what you select if you want to return an order to a vendor. Say they're damaged or they're broken, and you want to return it to them. That's what you select. A journal, okay, a journal is, you can sort of use a journal to sort of select products and orders, but you cannot use it you can't use it as a purchase order. You have to convert a journal into a PO before you can progress. Okay, so you can see the account date is today. That's the name of our supplier that we're supplying from. and also storage dimension. Okay, so we're going to say to this vendor, when you deliver these goods to us, we want you to deliver this to site 1, okay, because we have so many sites, and we also want you to drop it into warehouse, let's say 11, okay? So we have all the information we need. I think that's about it for now. We need to worry about it. Let's now okay that. So we have created a PO. In a minute, that should come up. Okay, so this is our PO. Okay, this is a line detail for our PO, and we also have what you call a header. Okay, so you have a header and you have a line, and down here you also have your open order, and it's also been approved. Okay, that's the status. Now, the one thing you need to know about this process is that your client might want you to put a workflow on this, okay, because they want to put checks in place to make sure that top management are actually checking to make sure that this price and quantities are actually valid, and that the amount that is on the PO, okay, is what is in the agreement. Yeah. So I don't have workflow switched on here, but I have workflow switched on in another area, which I'm going to have to show you later, and show you how I've set up that workflow and how that workflow flows and go through the process. Okay. So, but I don't have it on here. So let's just take what we have for now. So let's look at the header quickly. The header just gives us everything we've had on the PO. Okay. The PO number, the identity, the invoice account. As you can see, there's not a lot of information on here to start with, okay? But what it's taking our site and our warehouse, okay? And everything else is just created automatically for us, okay? So this is a header, okay? And let's go to the lines, okay? So the lines. This is where you actually put in your order, okay? So it's automatically created a line for us. So let's go into line, into item, and let's select cables, okay? We want to buy some cables from Best Supplies, okay? So the first thing we do is we select the item number. As you can see, automatically puts a product name in there. And then what you can then do, and also what's so good is because the site and warehouse are very critical, they're mandatory fields, it also puts it in there because that's where we want our goods delivered to. So quantity, how many do we want? We want 100, those cables, and you can see a price here, okay? I did not put the price in, okay? That price has come from a trade agreement that we have with the vendor, okay? So when I created the line, and when I created that item, the system knew that this was €8.76, and it just pulls it in, okay? So the price would always be in the trade agreement that you have with your vendor from the start. That could change, okay? They could change it, there could be a discount on it, but for now, that's what it is, okay? And now you can see what the net amount is, right? So now we have a line, okay? If we save that, then we say, right, okay, what do we do now? Okay, say the vendor calls us and says, hey, USMF guys, we're also going to charge you for delivery, okay? Because your site is too far, we can't do it for free. We want to charge you. Okay, that's fine. So what you then do is you then go to financials, you then go to maintain charges. And because they're charging us for, okay, let's say they're charging us for freight, okay? And what category is this? Okay, there's a fixed category. They can charge us per piece. They can charge us per percent. Intercompany, we're not looking at intercompany today. So let's just say it's a flat fee, okay? Flat fee of, let's say €90, which is fair enough, okay? So we save that. And then we go back to our lines. At this point, okay, you do not even see these charges on this line, Okay, but you'll see that in a minute. Let's save that. Now we have our PO. Okay, and if we go to our PO, before we progress it to the, before we move it along to the product receipt or receive our goods, okay, there are two things we need to do, right? You can check the totals for everything before you actually progress it. Okay, remember that we have 876 for the goods, and we also have a charge of 90. Okay, so that total there is 966. Right? So 966 is what the total amount is, which is good. We're happy with that. Okay, but one thing we need to do before we do that is that we need to send this off to the vendor to say, okay, this is the order, this is the PO. We're now going to post it to you, so we confirm it. Okay, so the confirm means we're sending this PO to the vendor. Okay, so right. So before it goes off, we send it to our manager. They look at it and they say, okay, yes, we're happy with this. Let's post that. Okay, let's send it off to the vendor. Okay, so the process starts. You either set up, I don't know if you have print management, you can set up print management for your, excuse me, or you can just print it out and send it off to the vendor. Okay, and in a minute that should complete. And when that completes, it means that our vendor has got our order. Good. So it tells us now that operation completed. Good. So we're happy with that. And the PO has gone to the vendor. So we wait. Okay, we wait a week later. What happens a week later? We receive the goods. So we go to receive. A big truck comes into our gate, okay, into site 1. Okay. And it says, hey, it's a delivery for your cables. Okay, that's fine. We then say, right, okay, where are the cables? We then go in and click on product receipt to check the goods that have come in. Okay, so I'm going to click on product receipt. I'm going to give this a product receipt number because you cannot progress without that. The system needs that. So I'm going to call this product receipt 300. Okay. And what's happened here? Let's have a look down here. If you look at the line detail, it tells us they brought in the HDMI cables, and it's for 100, and the price is 876. Okay, so we're happy with that. Okay, we're happy with that. So we then check it, and we say, okay, the goods you brought in are fine. I'm going to okay that. So you're posting the product receipt. So that will go through. We've now received that goods in. Okay. Now, as you can see, we've got the PO. The PO has then led us down to the product receipt, and then from the product receipt, we then create an invoice so that we can pay the vendor. Okay. So right, okay, it tells us operation complete. Okay, so now we've got our orders in, the lorry's gone, they've delivered it. Okay, now we have our orders in stock. And then we get the inspection manager to come in and say, right, okay, let's inspect. Okay, we've got 100 cables in, and then along the line somewhere, you find out there's maybe 5 are broken. Okay, 5 of those cables are broken. The guy who checked them on the gate did not check them properly. So what do you then do? Okay, you then call Best Way and say, you call Best Supply and say, 5 are broken. Okay, then they say, right, okay, if 5 are broken, don't worry about it, just throw them away or just do something with it. We don't care about it. So what do we then do with the process? We then go into product receipt. Okay, we go into product receipt and we say, let's correct this. So you click on correct. Okay, and when you click on correct, it allows you to change the quantity. but not the price. Okay, because the price is pre-configured. Yeah, and you can see that product receipt is PR300, so it is the right one. Okay, so let's go in and change this to 95 because we only have 95 delivered, or we have 95 in stock. Okay, so we're happy with that. We've changed it. Let's okay that. Now we are paying for 95, not 100. Okay, now that's complete. And then we call them back and say, right, okay, we've changed it, so you only pay us for 95. What you then have to do, okay, you then have to go into your PO, okay, because it doesn't change automatically, and change this to 95. Okay, take that. So now you can see that we have 95 at a price of okay, right, okay, now we've done that, and the vendor is happy with that for us to throw those 5 away. So we're only paying them for 832. Okay, so what do we now do? We then generate an invoice for this transaction. So we go into invoice, okay, and then we create a new invoice. We create a new invoice because we need to pay these guys. Okay, so we create an invoice, and what we do with the invoice is that we just have to make sure that all the prices and the quantities are all the same. Okay, if they're all the same, then we're happy. The first thing we do, we need to enter an invoice number. Okay, so invoice number to track the payment. Okay, we want to pay these guys. So we do that, and then you can just say, I don't know, the invoice description, delivered, HDMI. Okay, so good. So so have a look at this match status. It says not performed. Okay, but if we then do a match status up here, see how that changes to passed, because our PO and our purchase order, our product receipt, and our invoice all match. Okay, they all match, so that's all good. We're happy with that. We can pay these guys. So what do we then do? We post the invoice. Okay, what I should have done there, show you the totals, but that's too late. So we post the invoice. Okay, it looks as if something's gone wrong there. Right, okay, so that is my fault. When I changed the price from 100 to 95, I should have gone back into the PO, okay, and then confirm that PO, confirm that product receipt, that we're happy with the 95. Okay, I didn't do that, so that's what it's complaining about. So that's gonna confirm. Okay, and now we can go back to the invoice. We're gonna perform a match price status, and it's changed to pass this time. Okay, we're happy with the PO. That's the PO number. That's the product receipt number. Okay, and that's the invoice number. Okay, for a transaction. So let's post that. the processes are taking a bit longer than expected. Okay, so what that's telling us now is that the invoice is posted and it's now ready for payment when we're ready to pay the vendor. Okay, but it's got a 30-day terms of reference, which means we don't really have to pay for another 30 days, but let's pay them anyway. Okay, so let's pay them because this is part of the procure-to-pay process. So, okay, we now have an invoice we can pay. We can pay the vendor. So let's what we then do is we then go into accounts payable. We go into open vendor invoices. Okay, so this is where all our invoices sit before they're paid. Okay, so we want to usually where you'd find that invoice is right at the bottom because it usually puts it at the bottom. Okay, so you can see we have that invoice there, 300. Okay, so we have a total of 922. Remember that we had charges on that. Okay, so that's what's brought it to 922. But there's a price difference there. Don't worry about that because the reporting currency here is USD and the transaction currency is Euro. So that explains the difference between that. So you don't have to worry about that too much. Okay. So this is where we are. Okay. Now the vendor calls us and says, we want our money early, and could you please pay us? Okay, so we say, when we pay them, we need to create what you call a payment journal. Yeah, so it's a payment journal, and this is where you enter a payment journal to pay your vendor. Okay, so you select pay vend, and then you create a line. This line tells us that we're going to pay this vendor. So what we're going to do here is we're going to enter the details into the payment journal, and then we're going to post it. Right, okay. So who are we paying? We're paying best supplies. We have a cross. We can see that automatically. Say we want to pay them 900. Okay, we want to pay them 900. And we want that money, because it's money coming out of our account, we need to change this offset type to bank because we're paying them, okay? And we're paying them out of our USMF operating account. That's where the money is coming from. And we want to pay them electronically, not bridging. Bridging is a totally different thing. It's when you're waiting for a check to clear, but we're not doing that. Okay, so now this is what we're going to pay them. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the list here. What does this do? Okay, the general, it just gives you details about the payment. Okay, the day it was done, the company, it's a vendor, the contact is vendor because we're paying a vendor, the currency is euro, as I said, and we're paying them 900 euros. Okay, we're paying them from this account. So a 900 will come out of our account to this vendor. The bank type, offset type is bank. Okay, and everything else is just around the interest, the exchange rate calculation between euro and the dollar. Okay, and the payment, there's not a lot you can see on here, but obviously it's electronic payment, and that's really the only thing on the payment fee. We haven't charged a payment fee. Remittance, we're not worried about that. So what do we then do here? We can post it. Yeah, we've paid them, so we post it. And then what we do is we then say we've paid them, okay? And now we have to settle this transaction, okay? So we need to go and find that invoice and match it to this payment that we've made to best way, and then settle the transaction. So how do we do that? The best way to do that is to go into, let's go into best way. Let's go into transactions. Okay. These are all the transactions we have outstanding for this vendor. So we can go into settlement, and let's settle it. Okay, we've paid them. We want to balance our books. Okay, we want to balance our books, and we want to make sure that this settlement is settled and posted to the general ledger. Okay, so this is the invoice we had. Okay, it was for 922. Well, we've only paid 900. Okay, so what do? We match them together. We mark them as payment and an invoice. Okay, so you see what happens here automatically. It gives us a remainder of 22. So we still owe this company 22 euros. Okay, but let's post that. Okay, let's post it. So it's posted. Okay, how do we know it's posted? Let's go back and have a look and see what the status is on our payments form. As you can see, there was a previous payment of 0001, okay, which has been there before, from the 25th of the 6th. That's when that's due. And this one's due on the 29th, but we paid it. Okay, so we have this outstanding. Okay, so we close that. And then the vendor calls us and says, oh, we want you to pay the 110 because that's an older invoice. Okay, so what do we then do? It means that we need to reverse that payment, okay, to what it was before. So we can go into settle, undo settlement, and we mark them both, put it in the state it was before, and reverse the payment. Okay, now if we go back into settlement, it's back to what it was before. Okay, and they now say, we want you to pay this invoice because it's been there too long. We want you to pay it. So we now mark that, okay, and we mark the payment against that. Okay, so let's mark this one as well, see what happens. Okay, so we still have an outstanding of 132. Okay, so let's post that. And if we go back into settlement, we can see that we have only 132 on there. Okay, so now that is the process of Procure-to-Pay. Okay, that's from the time you create your PO to your product receipt to your invoice. Okay, and then when you pay the vendor. But what I want to show you now, okay, I think we did start late anyway. So what I want to show you is the payments. Let's go back to the vendors, okay, and let's go back to best way. Best supply. Now, if you need to know if you want to know anything about best supply, if you go into transaction, okay, you can see the balance that we have. This is a quick place to come and have a look at the balances. Okay, so it was 132, as you know, but you can see that it's one because of the currency, Euro USD currency exchange. It's one that we're not too worried about that. Okay, what you can also do is you can check the invoices that this vendor has. So coming up here gives you information about the vendor. Okay, now in Dynamics 365, when you're paying a vendor, there is another process called payment proposal. Okay, now what is payment proposal? Payment proposal is when you have to do a payment run for a bunch of vendors. Say you're planning for every week. You pay your vendors every week or you pay your vendors every month. Okay, that's the most popular way of paying a vendor, and that's probably what you might be able to sell to your clients. Okay, I don't know what systems they have now, but within Dynamics 365, you can say to them, right, okay, you have all these vendors, you can run a payment proposal which pays all these vendors. Okay, so let's have a look and see how that works quickly, because I want to show you that workflow as well, and I want to show you some new things that Microsoft have introduced around payment security. Okay, so let's have a look at a payment. When you want to make a payment, you always have to go into payment and payment journal. Okay, create a new line. If I have time, I can also mention something about journal names later on. And we go to lines. Okay. Instead of entering the best way, you know, before I entered best and it gave us everything. Sorry, it gave us a name. I'll just go straight into payment proposal. Okay, create a payment proposal. What that does, it opens up a window and says, tell me who you want to pay and how you want to pay them. Okay, so what I can do is I can have a look at all the vendors with the same due date and say, I want to pay them in a batch. I want to pay them by the due date or the cash discount date, or do I not pay them by due date and cash discount date? Okay, so I click on, I want to pay them this way. I select the dates, so I can select a date between, I'll leave that blank for now. And amount limit, okay, amount limit allows you to set a limit on how much you can pay a bunch of vendors. So if I type in here, 50,000. That will set a limit. It means I can't pay these vendors. I can't do this payment run of over 50,000. That's what that means. Okay. Now let's do a payment run, but this time, let's say let's pull in everything and see what's going to happen there. Let's see all the vendors we owe money. So what this is doing is processing that operation, whereby it's going to bring us all the outstanding vendor payments that we need to sort, invoices that we need to sort out, that we need to pay. I probably should have done a filter on it because this might take a little bit longer than I thought. Right, okay. Have a look at this, okay? It's pulled up all the lists of vendors that we need to pay within a certain date range. There's so many, aren't there? There's so many of them, right? So I'm not gonna pay all these guys, okay? Not today. So what you can do, you can remove some of them, okay? I don't wanna play this. Let's say I want to remove some. You can remove as many as you like. Removing it doesn't delete it from the system. All it does, it removes it from the payment run. Okay, so let's say I don't want to do too many. Remove. Yes. Okay, let's remove a few more. You can do this, it's quite equal to remove stuff. If you don't want to pay a vendor, if there's a dispute, if a vendor is on hold, there's no way it will get into here because the system would not allow you to pay a vendor that's on hold. Okay, so let's create a payment. Let's create a payment for this. So what's going to happen is a payment will be created for all these vendors. So it's doing a transfer payment. Okay, so now it's saying that this is complete. Okay, so these are all the vendors we want to pay. Okay, so if we're happy with this, okay, it says check here. Okay, but what we really want to do is what I should have done is I should have changed it in the payment proposal saying I want to pay only by check, by electronic payment. So what is crucial here, okay, is that you have the post date. You can post all of these, okay, and you can also generate a payment, Now, there's a difference. Okay. Now, let's say you're paying these vendors and you're paying them straight into their bank accounts. Okay. If you have an outbound integration into the bank account, it's advisable not to post. Okay. Not to post it yet. What you want to do is you want to generate the payment. Okay. So generate the payment tells us we want to pay by electronic payment, and it's coming out of this account. Okay, so if I click on OK to that, good chance I'll probably get an error here. Okay, and then I say OK. Okay, it's giving me an error. Okay, so what it's saying here is that some of the vendors you have here do not have bank accounts, so we can't transfer money into them. Okay, so what you then have to do, you then have to go in and create a bank account for these guys. But we would not have the time to do that now. Okay, but once you do that, if you generate a payment, a text file is created and shows you what is being sent to the bank. Okay, so you can verify that and check it. And then once that goes to the bank, when the bank confirms that the payments are good, you can then post the payment. If I'm very clear on that. Okay, you can then post the payment. You need to get an acknowledgement back, because if you post and it goes to the bank and there are errors with the payments, it means you're going to have to reverse most of those payments and then repost it again. Okay, so, okay, now through this process, you've probably seen that I've been able to go into bank accounts and stuff and do all sorts of things with them. Okay, and what I found in some of these projects I was working on was that it's very, very easy for me to pick a vendor. Okay, if I was sysadmin, okay, I can pick a vendor. I can put my own bank details in there, and I can be paid by this payment proposal or by payment. I can easily defraud the company. Okay, I can change the credit limit if I wanted to, illegally. So how do we counter that? Now, on the trial, I couldn't get it to work on the trial, but let me show you how this works. So what I've done is, if we go into another environment, I'm hoping, can you still see my screen? Hello? Can you guys still see my screen?
Yes, we can. I can see.
Okay. Now I'll switch to another environment now. Okay. Because I couldn't get the workflow to work on the trial. So as soon as I've done it in my own environment, it worked. Okay. So now let's have a look how this works. Okay. So we pick this vendor. And you're about to pay this vendor. I go into his bank account. Okay. And I can just create a bank account here. I can put my name in there so that, let's call it GT. It's a GT bank. Okay. All you need is a routing number, an account number. That's my bank details. Okay. Save that. So let's put a bank group in there, so that this groups all the banks. Let's just put that there, and then I save that. Okay. Now, what could happen here is I put my bank details into this vendor, so which means I can be paid. So what Microsoft did, they stopped us from doing that. Okay, you can't do that anymore. As long as you go into the parameters, accounts payable parameters. Okay, and there's a new feature called enable vendor approvals. Okay, so this means that anytime a bank account changes, or anytime any of these change, it needs to go through a workflow. Okay, so what I've done here, I've actually selected credit limit. Okay, select a credit limit. So I'm saying every time someone changes the credit limit for this vendor, we want it to go for an approval phase. Okay, so I've done that. And I'm going to go to my vendor and see what happens. Let's see what happens if I try to change. If I try to change the okay. I'm going to change this. Okay, I'm going to change it to, it's currently 15,000. Okay, but I'm going to change it behind the backs, and I'm going to change it to 25 because I like this vendor and I just like to give him a high credit limit. See what happens. It challenges me straight away. It says, hang on a minute, you're not allowed to do that. Okay, if you're going to do that, it needs to go through a workflow approval. Okay, so you can see on here, let's just close that for a minute. Let's just close that. If you see here, it says credit limit requires approval. Okay, that was because I went into the parameters and I selected that checkbox. Okay, so you can see automatically that it's created this, and it says it's 15,000, but you now want 25,000. It has to go for approval. So I say, I close it and I say yes. Let it go for approval. That's fine. Okay. At this point, if I save it, it's still saying 15,000 because it hasn't gone through the workflow. Okay. So now let's go for the workflow, see how this works. So I'm going to go workflow and I'm going to submit that to the workflow. And say, please approve credit limit. Let's submit that. Okay, so that says submit to workflow. If I go into the workflow and I go into history, okay, I want to see how this is going to progress through the process. Okay, I refresh that a few times, and because it goes through a batch process, we need to refresh it a few times. It's quite slow. Okay, it's saying that it's created it. Okay, it's created. We submitted it. It's now created it. You just need to keep refreshing. There you go. So right. Okay. So now what this is saying is that it's gone through the workflow. Okay, but it's assigned to Julia. Okay, I don't know who Julia is. Maybe she's on holiday or maybe she's away from her desk, and I need this very urgently. So what I will do is I'm going to reassign this work item to myself. And I'm going to say, I'm going to assign, just for testing purposes, okay, I'm going to assign it to me. And I'm going to say, I'm approving this. Okay, and then I reassign it to myself. Okay, so I'm going to refresh that a few times. As you can see that it's actually saying that it's been delegated from Julia to myself. Okay. And it's still pending. Okay. But if you then go into common work items assigned to me, the workflow sits here. Okay, and if I go into workflow, it's ready for me to approve. So I'm going to approve that. And I say approved by Tunde. Okay. Oh no, okay, that's close. Let's close that out. Okay, let's go back to the vendor. Let's refresh that. So hopefully, because the workflow has gone through, if I go back into that vendor, the credit limit should have changed from 15,000 to 25,000. It hasn't. Okay, so let's refresh it. I had a problem getting this to work earlier, but there you go. So it's now changed from 15,000 to 25,000. So that was one of the security measures that that Microsoft introduced. I think it was in the October release or something. And that same process you can apply to a bank account. Okay. So let me quickly show you the workflow that I've set up for this before we close. I don't think we have. If you go into Accounts Payable workflow, I'm doing this via Internet Explorer because Chrome does not like workflows. So what did I do? I created a workflow. And I just need to open that. And I'm going to have to enter my details in. So this is going to take us to the workflow, the canvas itself, about how this was set up. Okay. I'm just going to show you real quick what I did, because at some point you're going to have to set up a workflow configuration for your client, because they might say to you, oh, we want this security, we want that security, and you're going to have to set it up. So the workflow configuration looks like this. I'm sure some of you have seen this before. So what I've done is just created a simple workflow. Okay. So if I double click on my approval process and go to properties, okay, this is what I've done. Yeah, I've just said I need to insert something. Yeah, it's asking me for a work item subject, and my work item subject is that if data changes, okay, I need to know about it. All right, it's very much the same as that. The assignment, okay, this is where you assign who is going to approve. Okay, as you can see, this is admin. I can easily add myself to this, which means I can approve. So Julia was admin, maybe that's why that was the case. Time limit. How many days do we have for this to approve? We might have to rush it through. This one says 1 day, okay? And the completion policy. How many people do you want this to approve this? One, majority of approvers, percentage or all. I've just said one, okay? Now the condition. Here is the condition I set, okay? I'm just going to set this condition that anytime someone changes it, anytime someone changes a credit limit, I want to know about it. I want the workflow to kick in. Okay, so that's what this says. And it also says it for the bank account as well. So we have two set up. Yeah. And that's it. That's what I've done. But you can have a much wider and bigger workflow than this. Yeah. But this is just what I've done to simplify the process. So I'm just showing you what I've done. Okay. Now, I think we've actually been on for a while, and this is where we probably want to finish. Unless, in terms of an implementation, these are the kind of things that clients would ask you. They'll ask you lots of questions. Can we have this? Can we have that? Now, that PO that I showed you definitely should have a workflow in it, because, you know, top management, CFOs or CEOs would like to see a properly configured system that works for them. You know, the reason why they're implementing 365 is because they think it's a better system, and we need to prove to them that the legacy system, that Microsoft can do a lot more than the legacy system they have now. Okay, so in terms of an implementation, I know some of you have actually worked on this before in terms of, you know, data packages and code packages. The easier the implementation. If you have less customization in your implementation, it makes it a lot easier. And that's what I tend to do. I tend to persuade the client not to have too much custom changes or extensions, because that usually causes a lot of problems. I have experience of these kind of things. So deviation from standard, usually 5, 7, 8% is probably about enough. But if you have to make changes, there'll be times when they want changes, okay? And you want to add customization, then you get developers in to do that. That's not a job of a functional guy, okay? And then they set up their VMs, and they sort of develop the code. The code is then merged, and it's then sent to LCS. LCS is then packaged by LCS and applied to the environment. And then it gets into the environment you want to work in. So based on that, I think it's 11:30. Ahmed, if we want to take any questions, we can do that now. I'm happy to do that. Ahmed?